Stop the FOMO, my friends. Today we're going to talk about TVs getting cheaper and larger. How about a 98-inch TV for less than $3,000? And doesn't Sony QD-OLED TVs need more competition for a little bit less money? Sure, Sony is known for its amazing color science and natural cinematic look. People want that Sony look, but don't want to pay the Sony tax. Well, Sharp is launching its QD-OLED TV, and maybe Sharp can bring you that Sony cinematic look for a bit less. And lastly, and this is something many of you have been asking me, can you have a better TV without a tuner to save you money? So if you had that TV and the TV was awesome, how much money would you save? We're going to answer that today as well. But first, let me introduce today's sponsor, Keys. Yep, you just finished your big old PC Windows build, you have the best of the best, and sadly, you have less than $20 to your name. Keys to the rescue. Use my code SF20 and immediate discount. Let's quickly go through the activation process after you've purchased Windows 10 on Keys. Go to your Keys account and select My Purchased Orders. See your order. To the far right, click on the button that says View Keys Codes to see the Windows CD code. At the bottom of this order where it says Code Card, to the right is the product key you need to activate Windows. So copy this long number, then go to the Windows menu and click on Settings. In the Settings menu at the bottom, select Update and Security. Select Activation, then select Change Product Key, paste what you copied from Keys, click Next, click Activate, and you're done. You can download the Windows 10 Pro key and you're up and running. But that's not all, folks. Keys has keys for games too. Steam, Origin, Uplay, you name it, you got it. Check out their sites. There are discounts for all sorts of stuff. And most importantly, you want to be productive? What about Office Suite? Yep, you can download a copy of Office Professional with my code SF20 at checkout, and bam. Let's begin with TCL's most affordable 98-inch TV launching in Europe. It's 2,800 euros at launch, which is about $3,100, but the street price, as we all know, by the time this TV is out and about in a few weeks, it'll drop to under $3,000. That's thanks to TCL introducing its most basic LCD TV at the 98-inch size, with no full array local dimming zones, similar to a 4 Series or maybe this year's S Series, and without full array local dimming zones, you're not going to get that same HDR pop of the QM8 or even the Q7. Additionally, there are two other TVs that use TCL's less expensive 98-inch panel, starting with the Samsung Q80C. It launched at $8,000, but promptly it's down to $7,000, and later in the year, Sony will introduce its own 98-inch TV without any local dimming zones, probably similar to the X85K last year, but at the 98-inch size. Now, in my opinion, if you're going to get a TV that doesn't have any dimming zones, right, it's really good for SDR. Wait for that Sony. I expect that to be around $7,000 too, very similar to the Q80C. So what separates these three TVs? Well, with the Sony, out of the box, color, skin tones will be amazing. I'm actually excited to see how that Sony looks. Then the Samsung Q80C will most likely be the brightest and punchiest, most vibrant, perfect for sports on a 98-inch size TV. And then the TCL will be $3,000, less than $3,000, that inexpensive option. So you have three different ways to go about it. But now you're asking, wait, what if you want HDR? How much is that going to cost? Well, you could always go with last year's XL, the 98-inch XL. It has almost 200 dimming zones, and so it has just enough dimming zones to give you a bit of that HDR pop. But if you want real HDR punch, the QM8 does come at 98 inches, but it's closer to $10,000. So what if, and this is where we're talking about what many of you suggested, and we used to have these type of TVs in the past. What if we didn't have a tuner, right? Imagine a 98-inch TV with more dimming zones than the QM8. How about 3,600 dimming zones, or almost 3,600 dimming zones, right? So the QM8 at 98 inches has about 2,300 dimming zones. So we're going to go to 3,600 dimming zones and no tuner. How much would this TV cost? So the QM8 with around 2,300 dimming zones is $10,000. How about if I told you this better TV without a tuner is only $7,000? Yes, launching in Japan. The 98-inch C955 specifically is a 4K TV without a tuner. 4 times more dimming zones than the C845, which has around 896 dimming zones. So 4 times that is just under 3,600 dimming zones. That's awesome. So that answers your question, right? What if we had more TVs without a tuner? I can go with that. Let me know in the comments below. Would you get a TV without a tuner? I would love to see a QD-OLED without a tuner. So maybe Samsung, Sony, or Sharp could consider this. Next up, and this one is the most exciting one for me, it's the Sharp QD-OLED launching in Japan and likely coming to the USA in 2024. Now, before we jump into all the specs, let's talk about what you guys think about this. So I just put up a poll over the weekend. 1,000 of you answered, and it's split pretty evenly 3 ways. The most popular answer is you're going to wait on your buying decision until I get a chance to review it. That is definitely the right answer, but there are 2 others. One is, well, unless it's cheaper than the S90C, I'm not going to consider it. You might have to think twice about that, and we're going to talk about why. I think it's going to be a bit better than the S90C. And lastly, well, it's still more expensive than the QM8, so I'm not going to consider it. And I know where you guys are coming from. The QM8, currently 65 inches, is around $1,200. So Sharp aside, if you do want a QD-OLED at $1,200, it was available all July on the Samsung website. Unfortunately, it's sold out now, right? But obviously that's a great price. But back to the Sharp. I am going to project, speculate that it will be a little bit more expensive than the S90C, but definitely less expensive than the A95K, A95L. But this is where the value and the performance comes in. And here is where things get very special. It has its own proprietary heatsink. In addition to the Samsung display's already included thermal pad, Sharp has added its own aluminum heatsink on top of that, plus given it its own heat dissipation structure and software and circuitry it calls, I love this name, Climax Drive, to maximize brightness and contrast. So this, I think, is its approach to ABL, right? Automatic brightness limiter. But rather than saying it's limiting its brightness, it feels to me they want to push its brightness to its limit. This is pretty cool because throughout its product page, all it talks about is brightness and vividness and getting that contrast up in a bright room. It's very focused on what we've been talking about. How can you push QD-OLED to get brighter and minimize some of this dimming over time? And it looks like Sharp is addressing that specifically, so that is special. What else is special? What makes it a true competitor to the Sony? Well, the Samsung currently, S95C and S90C, still struggles a bit with low bitrate content. YouTube TV, right, rougher, lower bitrate content doesn't look as good. Well, Sharp also addressed that. To compete with Sony's own XR Clear, Sharp has introduced its Internet Video Clear Correction. I love how it mentions internet specifically, right? It's as if they're listening to our discussions about low bitrate content and bad internet connections. This makes it a competitor to Sony. Now, I'm assuming that it actually works well enough, but the fact that they're focused on it at all, and Samsung didn't really care about that, that tells me a lot about what this Sharp hopes to do and its appeal to the common person who does have a bad internet connection every now and then. This may be the TV that puts Sony on notice that, hey, there's someone else coming to the USA. Well, they know Panasonic's not here, so they're not worried about Panasonic, but Sharp is coming, and it's taking names. And of course, for more detailed reviews, check my reviews here, here, and here. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this show. Until next time, stop the FOMO.